Do it.
Welcome everybody to this masterclass called Beyond the Benchmark: How to Build Custom Dynamic Targets for Practice Growth. And so we're going to be diving directly into the Lucro software today to really help you understand how you can set specific targets to help you grow and stay ahead of growth. With Lucro, we always do an initial strategic planning session. Here's where you are. Here's where you want to be. What are your bottlenecks? What are your opportunities? What can we automatically find as a lowest hanging fruit that's going to have the greatest impact on taking your practice to the next level? And then what are we continually checking against ourselves every single month? We want to compare ourselves of what we actually did to what we wanted to do, our targets, but then also to the industry standards. What are the top performers in the industry and in the country doing? And how can we get insights from them as well as insights from what we've learned from our own clinic to continue to grow and scale? But as we continue to grow, like Dr. Adams was just saying, maybe you're doing even further or faster than you thought, and you want to adjust your targets. You want to make sure that you're striving to do even better. Or maybe you've lost a couple doctors, you had a transitional process, and maybe you need to adjust some targets, based on some of your different protocols, or maybe you're offering new options in your office, or maybe you have different team members that are altering, your targets up or down. So Adam's really gonna run this through. We have an entirely new update in the software. We have new updates every single month in the Lucro software, and that's what I love about it. It's always getting better. We're trying to give you guys more and more insights to give you better and better action steps every single month based on your financial data so that you can continually grow and scale and get to the next level. So Adam's going to jump into the software, and we're going to show you exactly some of these new features that you guys can start taking immediately action on.
Thanks, Dr. Jazai. Yeah, so if you've been a client, if you are a client at Lucro, you would know that during the onboarding phase, we do a strategic planning session with one of our fractional CFOs. And what we're trying to do in the platform is take all those components that we do in those strategic planning sessions and make them readily available for you in the platform so that you can use them, on demand. So if you want to use a particular component, you want to do scenario planning, or you want to adjust targets, or you want to look at a treatment calculator or capacity planning, all those different components, we want them embedded in the Lucro software so that you have them on demand with the backing of all your financial information so that they work in unison with each other. And then the ultimate secret sauce is then layering AI on top of that so that you have that level of data working through your AI platform. So as you would have experienced, you're sitting on a call with a fractional CFO, and that fractional CFO is playing that connection game. They're taking all that financial information, they're interpreting it, they're understanding it, they're trying to put words to it, create a story, get an understanding of what is actually happening. There's a lot of interaction, there's a lot of dialogue around understanding the contextual pieces of your practice, what's really happening. Numbers are only a little snapshot. It's like taking a photograph. Imagine the difference of a photograph to a 20-minute video of the same scene. They are contrastly different. So finances is essentially a photograph, where those strategic planning sessions is an hour-long video of a deep dive into what's really happening. So how do we feed more of that information into the back end of your platform and then give you all those tools with the help of AI so that there's full-on integration? You can then come back 3 months later and you pick up from the same place, and you can adjust a tool and it remembers everything that was discussed. All those different components is what the ultimate vision is. And as we're doing that, we're obviously building these components. And I would like to say we would have all the components by now, but we don't. We have certainly a good chunk of them that are sitting in the dashboard. So I've just opened up the dashboard. This is just a demo account. And so I'm sitting in this demo account right now, and I'm going to just show you that you can actually see all the things that are going to start to happen in the Lucro platform. And probably the three big ones are down here: target, scenario planning, and capacity calculator. We're talking about targets today. Both scenario planner and the capacity calculator are in production. We are busy working on them. It would be nice to just automatically put them in and they can work, but there's a lot of nuance components to the back of them, a lot of development work that actually needs to happen to make them work at the level that we want them to work, and not just some flimsy tool that sometimes works and doesn't work. We obviously want it to be at the highest standard it can be. So right now we're going to talk about targets. So what happens on a strategic planning call is we essentially set a set of targets for you based on that conversation. So if you've been on it, you have this long conversation. We define what's good, what's not good, what are we going to focus on, and what does the roadmap for the next 12 months look like. And we set targets, as in what is the aim for income. This is what we want to achieve on an income level. But then probably more importantly, we set the perfect P&L benchmark. And so the perfect P&L benchmark is saying, well, given the nature of your practice, it's obviously nuanced. We have a blueprint, but yours is nuanced. What should you be achieving in team costs, marketing costs, operational costs, and product costs? So what is the ideal ratio of those costs to revenue for you to maximize profitability? And in this demo account, we've got 30% for team, 12% for marketing, 20% for operations, 20% for products, trying to get us as close to an 18% profit margin. That's the goal for given, this demo account. And obviously everyone's would be a little bit different. And that we can adjust that now. We can say, well, what if we had 35% team cost, or we only had 15% product costs, or 8% marketing costs? So you can start to adjust them. Obviously, that can then also adjust your profit number. You can then also adjust your income targets to see, are you reaching those targets? This one over here. And that's the purpose of targets, is to give us, a goal, like what the trajectory that we are aiming for. Are we actually reaching that or not? Are we setting an appropriate target, and then we're holding ourselves accountable to reaching that? And then that's what the dashboard essentially does. And so if you in the dashboard and you navigate to the top, you'll see there's this little targets button. And right now we have two options. We have default targets, and default targets are the Lucro targets. You cannot adjust those if you're working in the platform. Those are set by us on the back end, and we don't want people to adjust them because there's a lot of nuance to that. And so if we want to adjust the baseline targets, then you will reach out to your account manager and you'll have a conversation, and we'll adjust them accordingly based on a conversation so that we understand exactly why we want to change it. The reason for that is all of our analytics, especially our commentary and focal areas, they built off those targets. Those targets make a massive difference to that interpretation of what's happening in your finances. So just allowing people to change them will fundamentally impact our ability to actually add commentary and help people. So we keep that fixed. So the default targets are unchangeable unless we change them from our end. But we now give you the ability to have a custom target. Okay, so I'm not going to click on it just yet. I'm going to show you how to get there. So there, you're going to navigate on the left-hand side to targets, and you'll open up a targets page. Right now, you can make one set of custom targets. Very soon, we'll have the ability to make multiple sets of custom targets. So you could make 10 different sets of custom targets the way you want to. We'll integrate that with scenario planning, because you can use scenario planning to also set a target. The big difference with scenario planning is about making adjustments to things. So saying, well, what if I took out this cost that I have? Or what if I treated this loan payment as an actual expense and not a loan payment? That's what scenario planning is. It's making adjustments to existing data. Targets is setting a view for the future. So just want you to understand those two different components. Scenario planning is a lot more complex because you obviously don't want to ruin that baseline data set, but you want to manipulate it not in a negative sense, not saying you want to, make it wrong, but it's just nice to sometimes see if it looks different. So what if I did this, or what if I took this out, or I changed this? What would my business look like? The major thing about scenario planning is we don't want to adjust the baseline data points. So we've got to build a tool that allows us to make an adjustment without actually changing what's sitting in QuickBooks. So that's what the big difference is there. Targets, all about the future. So if you open up the targets, you're presented with a page that essentially is the default target page. So this is telling you what is the default. If you change it, you don't change the default, you only change the custom, but it's set as the default. It's what your default is set as. That's the starting point. And so I'm just going to navigate you through it. So just before I do that, why would you change targets? Well, if you want to change fundamentally, for instance, I think it was Dr. Adams who said, Dr. Zayed, I can't remember the name, you've way over smashed your target, you way above where you want it to be. If that's a permanent change and things have fundamentally changed like that, I would reach out to your account manager and be like, hey, let's rework some of our targets to make this thing better. If you just want to get a different view, you want to maybe be more aggressive, or you go, well, I don't know if this is permanent, but maybe I can just have this parallel set of targets that I can use to measure performance, or my goal for the next quarter is maybe more aggressive or less aggressive than what we've set at the default. the Lucro default, that's why you're going to use this. Okay, so you're going to then set a set of targets that you can play around with. You can go and edit them, and you can do kind of whatever you want. Another really nice feature here is the treatment calculator, which I'll get to in a second, which is kind of like a capacity calculator, but it just doesn't have the guardrails of a capacity calculator, which I'll explain to you in a second. So on the face of the target screen, you're presented with your current month. We are sitting in, I'll just know back, we are sitting in March. So this is March 2026 data. So if I go to targets, this is the March month, okay? And I can edit it. So I can right now say, listen, this 233 is just way too unrealistic. I just want to open up this on the side here. So, because I'm going to break a few things and then it's going to come back. There it is. Just give me 1 second. Okay, perfect. So if I go in here and say, okay, this is not going to work, I'm going to make this 185,000. So you can then set that as 185,000. It's going to give you a prompt. It's going to say, hey, you've got a $48,000 difference here. Do you want to confirm that change? Yes, I want to confirm it. So now it will set your target at 185. And in the back end of our target, we have a 3% growth default. So what we're saying, that's target cycling, which is target cycling is just looking at a wide angle view of your targets and not just looking at 1 month. We have set in the default on the back end that every month we're going to increase our target by 3%. Okay, that's what the default is right now. You can change that if you want to, but it's currently set as a growth rate of 3%, meaning every month your target grows by 3%. So I've changed this to 185. That's 3% growth, goes to 190. And if I then change that across the board, as you can see, you'll see now I've got a whole new set of targets growing at 3% every single month. They go all the way down to February, which is now very different to the first number I had. So this number was, I think, something around that. I'll change it back in a moment. And so that 3% gets you all the way up to $322,000 over a 12-month cycle. If I change this to 185, obviously that growth is much lower to 256. So I can save that. That can be my first port of call to say, okay, I want to adjust my top line income target to be a little bit different. I can adjust one time next month. Okay, next month I also think it's going to be, or actually next month I think it's going to be one. I'm going to go down a little bit next month, for instance. I could say that. Okay, so you're going to change the next month to 180. Okay, if I now look at target cycling, that will go down to 180. Then it will rebuild from there back to your 3%. So back to 185, 190, and we'll get back onto our percentage cycle of growth. At any point in time, I can adjust these. I know maybe July is a particular month. I'm going to be away. And so I'm going to set that at 150. So you can set that at 150. And then from that point, it will reset back to your 3% growth. And then you can always go back if you say, oh, I'm going to go maybe back to 185 over here. Okay. And then you've now set, as you can see, it's not a straight line set of targets. They go up and down based on whatever you feel is appropriate. You may know, hey, in 2 months' time, I'm going to be away, or we're launching a new offering, or new doctors joining us. So we expect more than a 3% bump, or we actually expect a decline. You can do all of that manually over the next 12 months. You can make any adjustment to those targets right there if you want to. You can then also adjust the growth rate. So I can say, well, I want everything to grow at 5%. I want it to be flat, exactly the same. I want it to be -5, or you can manually. You can say 2%. I can say 12%. I can put in whatever I want, and you'll see it will give you a little view here of what that looks like accordingly. Okay, so I'm just going to reset this quickly, just so that I don't create too much problems on the back end. Okay, so that's what it was. Again, I can show you, I can reset it just exactly as I've just done at the moment. I think I've covered all of target cycling. You can also do percentage. So you can put in an exact amount. In June, you could also say, hey, I want to, that one's going to be 10%. Whatever you feel is more appropriate for you to use from a target setting standpoint. When you set this target, so I'm going to do it one more time. You set that target. If you now go back to the growth plan, all you need to do is you go to targets, you say custom targets, and it will change it to the 185 target over there. Okay. And so that would then give you, your new set of targets based on 185. Obviously, I haven't adjusted perfect P&L targets, so it actually doesn't look very different. It actually looks like nothing's changed at all. Why? Because I've just changed an income target. You've got to remember, perfect P&L targets are measured on actual. So what we're saying here is this account spent $69,000 on team costs, which is 42% of $163,000 of their income. The target doesn't matter. Okay, this income target doesn't matter here. This is an actual number. It's actual team cost to actual income. So changing an income target here is not going to affect our perfect P&L targets. What's going to affect those is coming down to the bottom here and actually adjusting our perfect P&L targets. Okay, I'm gonna go through that in a moment. I just want to talk about the treatment calculator, which is, I think, the most helpful tool here for you to actually start to see what is realistic in your practice. So I'm going to go to that in a moment. Just want you to know that even if I change the income target, I have to physically change the perfect P&L targets for these to be a little bit more interactive, which I'll show you that in a second. Okay. Another way to change my income, I just want to get this back to where it was. Okay, so that's just what it was. I'm just trying to keep it on a level playing field so I don't make too many adjustments. I can use a treatment calculator. And to me, this is probably the best tool in our targets section, where you can build an actual projection on different types of treatment you have in your practice. And then you can use it as a target. So you can set that as a target, which I'll show you in a moment. The difference between this and a capacity calculator, excuse me, is a capacity calculator has guardrails in it. And when I say guardrails, what I mean is it should tell you that that's impossible. So if you say, well, I want to see 500 adjustments a week, a capacity calculator will tell you, well, that's not possible, or it's only at 70% of capacity. And it uses things like hours, space, provider, resources. Do you have enough team members? Can you actually physically achieve that outcome given the resource bucket that you have? That's the big difference between capacity calculators and a projection tool, because I can just say I want to see 500 people a week, but if I don't have the staff members to do it, or if I don't have the rooms to do it, that's obviously not realistic. So just understand that the treatment tool doesn't have those guardrails in. That's going to be one of our new features where we have to set the guardrails. So you'll come in and you'll set the guardrails. How many people do you have? You know, what are your hours? If anyone's used our capacity calculator, Google Sheets, it's that built up in this tool. Okay, so treatment calculator. So what I want to do here is say, well, I'm not too sure what my income is going to be, but I want to plan for different treatments or different revenue buckets to then work out what is my target going to be and how much money can I actually make in a month in my practice. So I will create a treatment, okay, and I'm given a set of options. So I'll just do it for us. So I can say an adjustment is the first one, or adjustments. Okay, so my first type of revenue stream is, let's say, adjustments. What is my average fee per treatment? Let's say it's $55. And what do I expect volume-wise? So this volume-wise will be per these periods. So you can choose, you can say monthly, weekly, or daily. So I'm going to say 500, and I'm going to say weekly. So I'm going to say I expect to see 500, have 500 adjustments at $55 per adjustment every single week. Now, if you are a situation where you sell treatment plans, and you're like, well, I don't really sell it like those people don't pay per adjustment. They're paying, an amount for 12 adjustments, or 24 adjustments, or it's baked in a bigger treatment plan, that they are purchasing. I understand that. That is much harder to use in a projection tool. So my encouragement to you would be use volume. So even if you're not selling them, adjustment after adjustment, use this way of calculating it, as opposed to, oh, I sold 5 treatment plans to this value, because those treatment plans are usually spread out over different types of modalities. It becomes a lot harder. And I'm saying this through experience of doing this many, many times on hundreds of strategic planning calls. The math is quite complicated and doesn't actually give you the outcome that you really want. So my suggestion is to use volume. It's so much easier. So I'm saying, okay, adjustments 500 weekly, 55. That means I should be generating about $119,000 a month from adjustment. So I can save that. Okay, so that's one of my buckets. So to tell me over here, 119,000. One of my buckets is adjustments, and I can keep going. I can say, let's go new patients. I charge 135. I want to see 15 every week. Okay, that would generate, about just short of $9,000 every single month from new patients. Okay, great. I can save that, add it to the bucket. It's now added, and then my current total is 127. And I can keep going. So I'll just do a couple of them. Decompression. It's at 85. We're going to do 45 of them every week. And I'm just obviously making these up as we go. Add that to the bucket. Let's say we do soft wave. 75 to 65. I'm literally just making these up. Okay, we do that one. And then the last one is, let's say we do neuropathy. Oh, can't spell. Okay, and I'll charge 6,500 and I want to see 8 per month. Okay, this one I may want to do a bit different. I've got a monthly number. Okay, so I say. So now I've built 5 different buckets. I built in adjustments, new patients, decompression, soft wave, and neuropathy. And I have a projected total of 217. Okay, I can edit them at any point in time. So I can come in and I can edit them. I just click edit and I can edit them as much as I want. I can delete them. I can add as many as you want. You can, whatever you have, you can add them in. It's completely up to you. The possibilities are dependent on what is applicable in your practice. But then I can say, well, I think this is what I want. I've got some monthly targets for those. Weekly targets for those, and I got a monthly target for neuropathy. I can now use this as my target. So that will then make that your target right there. 217,516. There is your target built on your treatment calculator. And again, you can go in and change treatment calculator as much as you want and forecast that as much as you want to. And then you can just set it as your target. And then you can go back to your target cycling and say, well, I want this to be at a 1% growth, or I want this to be at a 10% growth or 3% growth. Again, completely up to you based on what you think is applicable. So let's just change it to 2%. And then I say save. And so now I've locked that into the system. Is 217 based on my treatment calculator. Again, I can go adjust it if I want to. And I've now set a 2% growth cycle going across the board. And there's all my new targets. An annual projection of about 2.9 million. So it gives us this nice little average projection over here, which is helpful. Then I can look at my perfect P&L breakdown. And so this is where we start to change the percentages in the 4 major buckets: team cost, operational, marketing, and products. Okay. And so here, this is the bottom section. You can click on edit. You will get this little pop-up. And the pop-up is just telling you what I said to you earlier, is if you change these, it fundamentally changes what you see on the dashboard, which is not a problem because it's only on a custom target. It doesn't change what you see on the default target side, but we just want you to be aware that you are now fundamentally changing what you're going to view in your business. And so that's going to change potentially how you interpret the performance of your business. So just be careful how you change it. And if you're uncertain, you can reach out to us and we can help you. That's the entire purpose of us being here, but we just wanted to give you that little warning. Okay, so yes, we've got this projection, but we maybe want to change a few things. We want our team costs to maybe be 35%, and then you'll see profit now goes down to 13%. The perfect P&L is it's 100% bucket. We've explained this many times. It's not magical. It doesn't have hidden pockets or what's the thing in a genie? That thing that he rubs and things come out that is magical. Okay. What's it called? The
Magic lamp.
magic lamp. It doesn't. Okay. It's just 100%. Okay. So I wish it did. I wish it had secret pockets and all that stuff and we could all make more money. But it's literally just a sum of 100%. So if you adjust any of the percentages, your net impact is profit, both positive or negative. So you can reduce the percentage, you can increase it. The net result is profitability, obviously. There is some little safeguards here. So if I put 75% in there, it will throw in, if I try and apply it, it's going to throw in a little error. Okay, that's going to say, hey, sorry, you've exceeded the allocation bucket. So I've obviously allocated more than 100% here. It's not going to work. Okay, so I just got to go in and adjust it. But let's say we want 35% over there. Business development, we want to bring down to 1%, overheads up to 14%. We know our practice costs are a little bit higher, so we're going to go 8.5 over there. Marketing, we want to maybe bring it down. Oh, let's go up. We can go up to 15%. Now I'm looking, I'm only at 6.5% profitability on this target. maybe my product costs are going to come down to maybe 5%. Okay. So I'm up to 21% profit margin over there, but the ratios are different. Again, completely adjustable as you want, as you deem applicable. I can apply them. It will then just give you a little summary of what you changed. So you can see, have a little bit of confirmation. Look, my profit went up, my team costs went up, my operations went up, other things went down. It just gives you a little bit of a view of what have you actually done to make this thing different. You can confirm those. And now that's set. So that's set in the background. It says your perfect P&L has been successfully set. If I now go to the growth plan page and I go to my custom targets, it's now going to measure that against those new custom targets. And so you'll see the difference here is we were saying team is a warning. It's caution, 42.38%, because we're aiming for 30%. And our new custom targets is actually changed. It's now only a warning, okay? Because it's now not as far off the 35% as it was, and they will change accordingly. And if I do some drill down analysis, so if I go into Lucro metrics, the same applies right the way through, because we are looking at our custom targets over here. Because we're looking at our custom targets, this is now measuring it against our new custom target of 35% and not our old target of 30%. And you can see, obviously, it changes how we now interpret that number from is it where we want it to be or not want to be, based on our perfect P&L. Remember, the perfect P&L also drives these two buckets on the top here, which is our perfect P&L income and perfect P&L expense. So the way I describe these two is, it's like when you take your kids bowling for the first time, you ask them to put those little, what are they called? Guardrails up over the sides so that the balls don't, can bounce.
Bumpers.
Buffers, those things.
Bumpers.
Bumpers. You ask them to put the bumpers up. Why? Because you don't want your kids to just, lose their ball and get upset that this wasn't fun. It's essentially what I believe is like a little bit of the bumpers of trying to help you understand where you are in relation to where you want to be. So we say, well, based on your target of 35%, we need this practice to be generating $198,000 in top line revenue in order for us to hit the perfect P&L target of team costs. Or we need the costs to decrease from 69 to 57. So that gives us an understanding of where we are in relation to where we want to be, and we want to try and operate between those. So we're going to try to push income and decrease the cost to get team to where it wants to be. But you can obviously see these now change. Both these numbers change pretty fundamentally from our default targets to our custom targets, because we've done just that. We've actually physically changed them. We've changed the targets, and in changing the targets, you then change all the calculations that are the knock-on effect of those targets. So if I go back to the targets and I go pretty extreme. So if I come in here and I say, let's go to 45%, okay? Really low profit margin. I apply that. I've seen that change. I come back in. I go to team costs. Under my default targets, I've got a red, caution. This is not good at all. You are, in this case, $70,000 off the ideal income level to support this cost. If I now look at my new custom target, it's a very different picture. I'm actually exceeding the income level that I expect to see right now because I've set my target at 45%. And so now I'm sitting at neutral. It doesn't give me those warning signs. It doesn't make me start to think, hey, I've got some work potentially to do in this practice. And that's what targets can do. Yes, it's arbitrary in a way, you're setting a target, but the entire purpose of what we are trying to deliver to you is insights. We're trying to say to you, well, is this going well or not going well? And this default picture over here, so this picture is very different to this picture, okay? The profitability is, when I say different, obviously you made the same amount of money, but here we're saying, well, there's actually no problem. We actually exceeded the level that we expected. We got almost double the amount of profit that we expected, where here we're saying, well, no, we only just got 5% more profit than what we expected, and there's a team cost issue. So I'm just trying to showcase to you that targets can really impact how you interpret your financial data. And that's why we use them. That's why we have the perfect P&L. It's why we've put so much effort into understanding how targets work and ensuring that we always have a default set of targets so that we can compare you to the baseline. What are we really trying to compare? How do we set these targets? A lot of our targets are set on number one, industry averages. So we've got this entire bucket on how does industry work? What are the averages that we see in the industry? And then also on the conversation, that hour-long conversation we have with you to really understand your business. Remember, we're doing a lot of work to set an appropriate target level, not just income, perfect P&L, that's applicable for your practice, that's going to hold you accountable for what you're trying to achieve. So just remember that when you set your own custom targets, that it's going to change the way you interpret things. And so just be mindful of that so that when you're setting them, you understand that that can be the impact. But essentially there it is. So in this case, I've now got this target at any point in time. I'm just going to change this because it's a little bit under the stick. At any point in time, I can come back in and I can reset them if I want. I can go back to my treatment calculator and I can go, hey, I'm going to actually add, PT into my practice, and I charge $45 a session, and I'm going to do 80 in a week. Okay, all of a sudden there's another $15,000 a month. I can save that. I can push my income target. I can use it as a new target. So I can do that to continue to update my targets. And then obviously when I go to my growth plan page, I can then toggle to my custom targets to see that alternative view compared to what I currently have in the practice. So that's custom targets. I don't know if you have any insights there, Dr. Josiah. I can talk about some of the other components of the dashboard, which I will, because I know some things people may not know where they are, or we built some new things, but that's targets.
I think it's a great additional feature for people to really play around with their numbers. And I really like the ability to set the targets also for the different protocols and say, hey, I'm trying to collect this much from adjustments, this much from decompression, this much from x-rays, this much from shockwave, or whatever other protocols that you offer, in your office. That treatment calculator is a really valuable tool, to then cross compare what your revenue breakdown was versus where you want it to be. And I think it really gives a great opportunity of understanding your capacity. I know we're going to have the capacity calculator, section down here as well, but kind of utilizing those in tandem and saying, hey, this is my potential. This is what I'm actually doing. This is what I want to do. Where's the gap? Okay, then understanding your marketing ROI. Okay, I'm getting this X ROI on Shockwave versus this X ROI on chiropractic patients, and then having a really understanding of what that scaling looks like. And then how do you grow that, by 1% or 2% or 3%, like you said. So I think just the dynamic tool for me, I've really enjoyed it just to play around with, to say, hey, put some projections in, put some guesses in, really have an understanding of what's working, what's not working, but then also give me some realistic understanding, of what's possible as well.
Yeah, you always want to know. You always want to, that's always a big question is what if I added another doctor? Okay, what if I, lost a doctor? Or what if I added more hours or less hours? So that's what the treatment calculator helps us do. Capacity calculator is going to take that to a whole nother level, which will hopefully be pretty soon. So put those guardrails in. But that's what we want for every single one of our clients is we want to empower you to understand your business. We want to empower you to want to interact with making it better in a sense of, okay, well, let me plan. Let me sit for 20 minutes and play around with some scenarios and figure out, would this work or what would this look like? Because that's what makes us better business people, is sitting down and trying to figure out, can we do this? What if we did this? Dr. Josiah and I were on an internal call for Lucro just yesterday with one of our advisors who we really value. And it's like, we're talking, we're having fun conversations. Like, what if we did this? Or what if we tried that? Have we tried this? Have you tried this? What have you learned from this? And it's those types of conversations that ultimately make us better business owners. And these are the tools that we want to have at our disposal to go from just, idle ideation to building something that actually has got a number to it that we can then go, oh, I want to use that, or I don't want to use that, or I can apply that or not apply that. And hopefully we just keep adding to those tools, which is what we're going to do in the next couple of months.
Yeah, I'd love for you guys to pull up your Lucro software and play around with this yourselves and get some insights and action steps for yourself. Like we talked about the scenario planning, the capacity calculator, The bank activity, those are also additional updates that are underway. So some really cool software updates coming very, very soon. But I would highly recommend playing around with the targets if you haven't been utilizing the Lucro Flow a lot. I mean, man, we've gotten lots of good feedback on the Lucro Flow because really the whole premise is, we give you top of the line financial data. X marks the spot. There's gold buried inside this area, and then you need to utilize the Lucro Flow to help dig down into those specific sections of your business to figure out exactly what action steps need to take based on your financial data. That's the whole entire premise of Lucro, is to answer the singular question: is what is the number one thing that I should focus on that's going to have the greatest impact on my business? And starting with financial data, then drilling into practice or EHR data, KPIs, marketing data, that's going to give you the best decision-making ability month over month to make the best decisions to continue to reinvest back in your business in the proper manner and continue to scale.
Yeah, I'll just add on the Lucro Flow is it's essentially like a self-guided approach for you to understand what's happening in your business. And the idea, I go back to when we get on a strategic planning call with our clients, we see a picture. You look at a P&L and a balance sheet, even if you look at it in this nice fancy format of our dashboard, which we really like, tells us a whole story, this picture, that's great. But if you sit and talk to someone for an hour and you start to understand their business and understand the nuances of their business and the way their team operates and the dynamics of their team and their location and how they've historically got patients and how they currently get patients and what is that, there's so much nuance. I mean, that's why every single practice is uniquely different. And that nuance gives us insights into what is the best next decision. And that's different. I could look at 5 P&Ls that all look exactly the same, but you could have 5 contrasting different outcomes to what the best next step is based on that hour conversation. And so the Lucro Flow is essentially a self-guided approach that you can take through that conversation. It's essentially all the questions that we would have asked or do ask on those calls so that we understand each of the 5 fundamental areas of your business: income, team, marketing, operations, products. It's why we built it that way. It follows a very particular pattern. It's understanding capacity, understanding our people, understanding demand, operations, and then how do we then scale to the next level. And it's a self-guided approach of, well, what is capacity about? What are the key KPIs that are going to give me the insights about capacity that are helpful for me? What are the levers that I can pull to make capacity better or more robust or bigger or whatever it could be, or fill it up? And then the relationships is, how does capacity interact with some of the other areas of our business? And it's that guided approach on every single one of them that if I was self-diagnosing my business, I would look at my dashboard, I would see team costs are a problem. Firstly, overall profitability is not a problem, still performing pretty well. We are below our target. We are at a decent profitability level. It's not too bad. However, team costs are pretty high. I don't like the fact that team costs are so high. So how do I analyze team costs? I've got 2 approaches. I can go directly to the Lucro Flow and I can look at team and I can get an understanding of what is important for me to be asking and thinking about when I'm looking at my team. At the same time, I can go into my team costs. I can look at the micrometrics of my team costs, or the Lucro metrics, or the nitty-gritty, and I can look at Lucro Insights, and it can give me a very similar guided approach of, well, what do I need to consider here? What do I need to look like? What are the levels that I can pull? And you can read through them, and you're going to start to go, oh, that one's applicable to me. That one resonates. Yes, I think that's a problem, or I think this is a problem, or I think this is an opportunity, and that will hopefully help you make those good decisions. It's that guided approach to help you make the best possible decision you can to move your business forward. So those 2, Lucro Flow and Lucro Insights, are 2 features that I would be using every single month. I'd open up my dashboard, look at it, what's not going well, drill down, look at the insights, look at the Lucro Flow, ask the questions. You've got to apply your brain. If the answer was on a chappy wrapper, then everyone would be a billionaire. So it's not. You've got to actually do some work. You've got to kind of read through them, figure out like what is happening here, ask those nuanced questions that only you can answer. No one else can answer some of these nuanced questions. No one's walking through your practice. No one's talking to your patients. No one's talking to your team. So only you have the insights to those. That's, you got to understand, you're the business owner. You have the best insights into your business. So don't try and outsource asking those questions, because no one is capable of answering them to your degree. You want to answer them. So we're trying to help you ask the right questions so that when you answer them, you'll get good insights so that you can move forward. Exciting times.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you, Adam, for sharing the new updates with the Targets tool. Super excited for the scenario planner, the capacity calculator, and the bank activity tools that are all underway and being built out right now as well. So again, like I said, if you do have any other entities that you'd like us to take over your bookkeeping for, I would definitely send a message to your account manager or reach out to us, because that's something that we've been onboarding a lot of clients, other entities in the last month. And so that's something that we can do all under one roof now. Other than that, thanks everybody for jumping on this masterclass today. Hopefully you guys got some great value, some good insights on how you can better understand setting dynamic targets on a more consistent basis to really stay ahead of your goals and alter as your business changes dynamically as well. And hopefully you guys have a wonderful and amazing Easter.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.